right now that our next guest may be able to educate you on supply and demand.
I could use a whole lot of education on supply and demand, as we're going to be joined on the air now as Robert Sauerwein joins us on the air. And I'm hesitant to really preface too much about why we're having him on, and because I don't know how much information he wants to give, so I'm going to allow. We never do this with any guest, ever. But I'm going to bring Robert Sauerwein on the air with us. And Mr. Sauerwein, thanks for coming on in with us on the Outlaw Radio Network.
Hi, guys. Thanks for having me. Hey, if you call me a mister, I'm going to turn around and look for my dad.
Oh. Okay. Is Sir better? I'm kidding.
Robert? Bob?
Kidding.
Bobby?
Bob is great.
Bob is great. Okay, Bob Sauerwein is with us. And now normally we've got this really, kind of explicit intro we give, and we explain who you are and why you're on the show. And I don't know how much information I'm allowed to give. So for the first time ever, I'm going to defer.
Wow.
And allow you to tell us
kind of a big deal
who you are and
huge
and
what's going on. Well, give us the information.
Well, just a little background on me. I was born in Portland, and then I was moved to British Columbia when I was a kid by my father and mother. Raised there, and it's kind of interesting because it's a little like Sarah Palin. I found myself working and not going anywhere, and decided that I better get back to university and make something out of myself.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm glad you followed that up because I was going to say, oh, you quit. Okay. Sorry, I couldn't resist.
Then from there, I went on into I went to university for a while, and I went to the service and spent some time in the Persian Gulf, and then came back and finished school. So I'm like most people. I've worked both sides of the sector. For employers and for myself, and I currently have my own small private business. And I've been in Kittitas now, Kitsap, for 4 years, and moving here from Kittitas. And I'm like a lot of small businessmen. I'm finding myself struggling in this economy.
Yeah,
and
no kidding.
Some gentlemen came to me and said, you've developed a reputation for honesty and straightforwardness, and we'd like you to consider running against Norm Dix. So that's where this whole came from. I've been in politics for many years. I held an office in Kittitas on the Planning Commission, and politics is nothing new to me. I do work professionally in it as well. So when I'm looking at this whole situation, I said to myself, you know what? The problem in America is not America. The problem in America is all these long-term politicians.
Mm-hmm.
So why don't we get rid of them? And I don't care if you're on one side of the aisle or the other. If you've been there and you've been making mistakes for this long, 34 years, it's time for you to go away.
Well, go ahead, Kevin. I'm going to let you, before I say anything, I'm going to let you, because I will just start going. So go ahead.
No, listen, let me ask this question first, because the logical question that anybody's going to ask, and I think I already know the answer, but explain this to me. So if you're going to go against Mr. Dix, and I use that term loosely, what are you going to? Would you be Democrat or Republican? I'm assuming I know, but I want to give you the chance to kind of spell it out.
Right. Yeah, I would be a Republican, and the reason for that is because they're closer, I believe, to the constitutional statutes at this time than the other party is, the Democrats. Now, having said that, first and foremost, I consider myself a constitutionalist. It is the Constitution of the United States and the essence thereof that made this country what it is today.
Couldn't agree more.
That's what I want to strive to get us back to.
So
there was two things
President
Reagan said he missed when he was in office. Number one was a line item veto, and I don't care about that. But the second thing, and had he passed this, we wouldn't be in the situation we are in today financially, is a balanced budget amendment. And that's the one thing that I think that I know if I was elected, I would strive to make happen.
I have a theory, though. Let me totally off the beaten path. I have a theory Republicans don't really want, and I don't mean you, but the Republicans in general, I have a theory they don't really want the line item veto. It's not, the balanced budget amendment. Because if there was a balanced budget requirement, Republicans would lose like 80% of what they can run on, which is fiscal conservatism and balancing the budget. And the Democrats, and I am one, we've done a horrible job of spending and balancing anything. But that's neither here nor there. Let me ask you a question. The Republicans, and this is not just me. This is something we spoke with Stephen Gardner about. And the Republicans, it almost felt like they've thrown up their hands when it goes to going against Dix. They've picked people who they knew could not defeat him. Cloud, who ran against him in the last election. Great interview. I mean, for us, a great interview. But for mainstream people that were voting to the county, he came off right or wrong as a total, complete whack job.
Here's what's going on. You have anytime, this happens all over the country, anytime you have an incumbent that's been in for 12, 14, 18, 34 years, the opposite party considers it a lost seat. And I've talked to both state and local parties, and they're all saying, well, that's good, and they're excited about my candidacy because they know I actually have what it takes to win. But none of them are willing to put up the money yet.
Well, maybe not yet, but that comes.
I truly, truly hate about politics is the money involved.
Sure.
And there's no getting around it. It takes money because you've got to print your flyers, etc. But it's that money that's caused so much trouble in our country. And I don't care if you're on the right side of the aisle or the left side of the aisle. The place to be is on the Constitution side of the aisle. And that's where this revolution started in 2010. This is truly a revolution. The Congress, according to the Constitution, controls all spending and is accountable for all spending. Okay, that means that it doesn't matter what the president says, it doesn't matter what party says, the Congress is accountable. Well, we swapped out a whole bunch of those, and there's still a bunch of guys in there on both sides of the aisle that are fighting over $60 billion when they're trying to spend $1.4 trillion on credit cards. Enough is enough. We're broke. Let's fix the problem and get back to being the shining light on the hill.
All right, Bob, question for you. I know this is gonna throw some people off, but I got to ask: do you consider yourself a strong supporter or even a member of the Tea Party?
I actually consider myself a supporter of the Tea Party.
Okay.
I consider myself a supporter of anybody who is willing to get up there and fight for America.
I think that's a pretty good
answer. And that's what they're doing. Look, when I went in the service, I had people ask me, why are you truly going in the service? I mean, I was still in Canada at the time. So they're asking me, why are you going in the American service? And I said, there's two reasons. Number one, I'm an American citizen, and I'm proud to be so. But number two, it's the one country in the world where you can say anything you want, and I may hate it. And I can say anything I want, and you may hate it. But I promise you, I'll defend to the death your right to say it.
Oh, absolutely. Listen, is there any other country on earth where the Supreme Court of said country would rule in favor of a group of nutbags and say that it's okay for them to hold up signs and protest in front of a soldier's funeral? I don't think so. No. Only in America.
There's no other country in the world that'll let you burn a flag.
That's right. That's right.
You know, so no matter what, it's our freedoms that we have to protect, and that's what we're talking about here.
That's right.
If we are in a bigger trouble right now than ever in history. I look at what's going on. I'm 47 years old. I remember the Carter administration.
Sorry about that.
I remember the Reagan administration. I remember what's gone on since then, and I studied what's gone on in the past. And there's been no time in history, none, where we have been under attack like we are today. And that's because it's financial. And if we don't solve that problem from the inside out, because I know you and me and everybody else can't afford to continue to spend on credit cards, so if we don't solve this problem from the inside out, our dollar's going to fall.
Isn't it falling now? I mean, isn't our value already dollar already devalued by what, 30 cents?
Absolutely, it is falling. That's why the cost of gas is so high, and that's the cost of fuel is part of why we're having revolutions in foreign countries.
Sure,
we're the Garden of Eden for the entire world. Our food supply feeds billions of people around the world.
Well, and it costs
to transport it.